So, Raqqa, Ramadi, raids. 3 Rs, it appears, with which the United States is formulating a new approach in Syria and Iraq. Speaking today at a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing, the United States Secretary of Defense, Ashton Carter, said the US intends to pursue direct action against Islamic State militants.
We've been clear for some time that we need to keep up pressure on Raqqa, and to that end, we will support moderate Syrian forces fighting ISIL that have made territorial gains near Raqqa. Indeed, some of them are within 30 miles of Raqqa today.
Raqqa, in Syria, is the de facto capital of Islamic State. Ramadi is one of the biggest cities they hold in Iraq. It's very close to Baghdad. The third R that Ashton Carter referred to was raids. That's basically carrying out ad hoc raids when the intelligence is available, as happened only the other day.
Yes, his comments came just as it was reported that Iran had been invited to take part in the multilateral talks on Syria, which is being held in Vienna later this week. So is there a change of strategy afoot, both militarily and diplomatically? Let's speak to Sharif Behruz, who's vice president of the Iran Roundtable, which is a not-for-profit coalition of Iranian-American ethnic groups in the United States. First of all, Matthew was just talking about the joint Kurdish-US raid. I think it was on an Islamic State prison in northern Iraq. So is this, a public declaration of something which is happening already?
Well, obviously the joint raid with the Kurdish forces was a spark of such a new policy that Mr. Carter was talking about. It's sort of finding a middle ground. And I believe we continue to see such operations in raid, not only in Iraq, but also perhaps in Syria. But I think this administration wants to have it both ways. They want it stick to the policy of, pulling troops from out of Iraq and combat zone, for that matter, and not engaging in combat missions, but at the same time, sort of engaging in a way that doesn't look like military intervention.
Because they're targeting, Raqqa and Ramadi, which are two significant cities. That is getting into the fight.
Well, they're referring to the two center of the Islamic State, but as we saw in latest raid, it was not on Raqqa or Ramadi. It was on a Huwayja area, an area close to Kurdish. Obviously, the U.S. forces wants to have allies that they can depend on. So they know they can depend on the Kurds and they can engage in such a raid and become successful. Unfortunately, there will be fatalities on all sides. But the lesser, the better. And I think this was a success. But I think he mentioned Raqqa and Ramadi just to kind of reinforce this policy that they're willing to go as far as the center and the hub of the Islamic State, which is Raqqa and Ramadi in both Iraq and Syria.
They didn't mention Mosul. Is that presumably because they're letting the Kurds take care of that?
I'm not sure. If I was in this position, I would probably mention Mosul. Mosul is the second largest city in Iraq, and it's a strategic city. It's more important, given its oil, natural resources, and its strategic location. It is compared to Ramadi. Maybe it's just because of the way it's written. There's no R in it, but I think. If I would have probably put Mosul on top of the list, even on top of Raqqa and Ramadi.
And just finally, Sharif, they're finally acknowledging the elephant in the room in this conflict for years, which has been Iran. They're now asking them to the table. That is significant.
It is very significant, and I think it has to do with the fact that this latest round of talks is in a position of weakness as far as the anti-Assad forces are concerned. The pro-Assad forces are in a much better position, Russia, Iran, and I think U.S. giving its idle policy, sitting by and just letting everything happen and unfold, it has to accept the fact that there are other players in the region that are making a big difference, and they have to join the talks, and they have to accept whoever is on the talks. I think Iran will join the talks, given that, yes, they have proven in the past that this is, if they have an upper hand in negotiations and, in the events in the region, definitely they can assert their positions, and I think the Iranians will join, and the U.S. has come to agree, fortunately to some extent, that yes, Assad will stay, and there are powerful forces behind Assad, and countries like Saudi Arabia and others are also realizing this, and they're approaching the Russians to kind of mend their fences with the Assad regime.
Thank you very much. That's Sharif Behruz, Vice President of the Iran Roundtable, which is a non-profit coalition of Iranian American ethnic groups based in the US.